Hey, good morning. Day 59. Before we get started, it's another, the colors this morning and the way they showed up on camera. Woo. There you can see it too. The lake today is looking like a mirror. Still kind of a muted color palette. Wow, so pretty here. It's a little pretty spot that I live by for now. Anyway, man, I mean, you knew it was probably coming because King Solomon, after all, is a human being. And he doesn't fail as a human. he gets gold stars for his humanness. Yeah, he veered off the path. That's the message today. Don't veer off the path. Like, he had clear directions. God comes to him and gives him warnings. It doesn't go into the details like it did in the prior interactions with God, but he veers off. He becomes, it seems like women were maybe the biggest downfall. He had I might be getting this backwards, 700 wives and 300 concubines, or the other way around. 1,000 women. Yeah, he was a little distracted. And he was trying to keep everybody happy. So evidently they would keep him happy. And so he erected idols. Maybe that was the wrong word there. Made myself laugh. Anyway, yeah. To keep these ladies happy, he put up, Ashtoreth poles, and I'm not going to even attempt all the other gods' names and idols. So he says, you know what? Because I made a promise, I'm going to keep my promise. I'm not going to kill you while you're king. I am going to take most of your kingdom away. I'm going to leave this one part for you in Judah. But everything else, somebody else is going to be king and rule over the rest of Israel. So that way I fulfill my promise to David. And we're reminded that David, even into his old age and with the wives and all that he had going on, he stayed faithful to God. Solomon veered off the path and went his own way. You can go your own way. Anyway, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. And he did. And he rises. Then I think we're going to see how he starts rising up other kings, specifically Jeroboam. And his own son gets... survives him, one of his sons, Rehoboam. Anyway, I'm going to butcher their names. And he rules over the one remnant that's left. And he's a terrible ruler. He's mean. He's cruel. Oh, here's the sun peeking up. Let me zoom in. There she is. So exciting. So every day it's exciting. It's like, happening. And anyway, but the story that really caught my attention actually is a really good one that dovetails on yesterday with the Queen of Sheba and reputation and credibility. Because again, it's really not about human reputations, because we can ruin ours, but God's stays the same. He stays true. He stays credible. His reputation is what it is. He means what he says. He says what he means. He does what he says. There's a story of an old man or a prophet that comes to deliver a message to Jeroboam, I think. Anyway, one of the kings, right? And he's not named. And then we'll see another character in the story, and he's not named either. But it's the story of these two men. But it's really all about God. God sends this prophet from another land and says, you need to go into this country, give this message, do not eat or drink anything while you're there, and leave by another way. Like very specific instructions and a path he was to follow. Like, you know, when God gets specific like that, you've got to pay attention. Like, why? And other people around him, or at this time when this event was happening, also were paying attention. And they wanted to test God's credibility. So the message was also, hey, you better get right with God and get rid of these altars, these idols, what you're doing here with these, you know, having priests that you've risen up just out of normal people, not from the Levites. Like everything you're doing here is of your own making. And you think you're doing a good thing by making things look like they're supposed to, or like the real thing. Festivals, temples, worship, you know, all of that. Like he kind of mimicked or copied the system, maybe in an effort to think, well, it's sort of like what worshiping God. It feels like it. It feels like we're doing something that's reverent and doing these important things. So must be right, right? You know, the ability of the human to, get way off track and not even have a clue about it, maybe. But the instructions said, it was very specific. If you don't knock this off as proof that this is a message from God, the altar is going to split in half and all the ashes are going to fall on the ground. Like it's just going to, boom, happen. And this guy is like, the king is like, no, he points at him and says, get out of here. And not only does that happen, like in an instant, like the altar cracks, the ashes, like the prophecy comes true, but the king's arm is like stuck in an upright position pointing. And he's like, oh my gosh, please tell God to let my arm go. His arm had become paralyzed in that position. So this prophet goes off to God and says, okay, let his hand go. And he does. And then this guy offers him, says, oh my gosh, thank you for delivering this message and letting my arm go, helping me get my arm let go of. Why don't you stay and have a feast with me? And he says, oh, no, I can't do that. God told me not to eat or drink while I'm here. And not only that, but I have to leave this other way. So the story of this is it's probably like the talk of the town that day. Makes it out to another priest, an old prophet. And that old prophet says, go find him. He tells his sons, go find him. Oh gosh, this is beautiful. The geese are, I'm trying to zoom and see that you can hear them. Oh, so pretty. Anyway, so they run after this guy, bring him back, and the old prophet says, hey, I want you to eat and drink with me and tell me about what you're doing here. Tell me, let's have a chat. And he says, oh no, I can't. Lord told me I can't eat or drink anything while I'm here, and I've got to leave by another way. He goes, oh, that's okay. I'm a prophet too. And an angel came and told me that you can eat and drink here. It's okay. Yeah, he lied. And he used his credibility and reputation as another prophet to deceive another prophet. And the Lord follows through on his promise. He ends up getting killed by a lion. But the lion doesn't eat him and he doesn't touch the donkey. So this guy was really testing. Was this really a message from the Lord? He was testing God's credibility. God was faithful. He, even in his, what seems like terrible, actions, he's like, he says what he means. Like, he's got to be that. I'm starting to kind of get it. Like, he's at least at this period of time, he's got to be this ruthless and this cruel because they just don't get it. And even when he's that way, like they get it for a while and then they go off again. So, this guy, even though he was really trying to do the right thing, trying to follow all the directions, he got lured off by trusting another human's credibility and reputation. And he was veered off the path by a fellow believer, a fellow prophet. He felt like, oh, this guy wouldn't lie to me. And I know God speaks to other prophets, and it seemed believable. It seemed credible. He had the reputation, you know. And so we, even as believers, like if God has given something directly to you, you've got to like stay strong in that, because even with good intentions, other believers, because he's given them different assignments, and sometimes we're all like, we feel like we're on different pages, or we're really watching out for somebody that they need to get back on track because it's our track, or what we think their track should look like according to, how God is working in our lives, or whatever church we're going to, or whatever. Like, when Jesus comes on the scene, and even in the Old Testament, there was no church with all these denominations and different ways of worship that we have to deal with now. And you can really get into the weeds with other believers, like, well, I'm a Baptist and blah, 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 and I'm a blah, 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 and Catholic, and this is what we do, and this is the only way, and yeah. And we can really get each other off track if we at one point really were clear and focused and on mission, like Solomon was, like we talked about the other day, and we don't remind ourselves constantly, oh yeah, this is what God says, because he's not going to come and just say, hey, remember what I said every day. Like he leaves it to us. Like he is clear, we know it, and then we allow ourselves to be talked out of it, either by our own minds, people around us. And I just gave you a snippet of what was in these few chapters. Like there was a lot of this going on. There was a lot of this going on, not only from the example of Solomon with his wives, but with Solomon's sons, with all the kings. Like they were all listening to each other instead of that one. And even when the one example we have was really trying his best to do that, he got easily diverted and veered off the path. By trusting in the credibility of a fellow prophet over what he knew God had said to him. Yeah. There's some, like head scratchers there. It's like, God, like, I had a friend say to me once, and a client who was like, it seems like God is a God of gotchas. And I'm like, I know, it is, when you focus on it that way, it is easy to see that. But if all it takes is a quick reframe to really look at his credibility, like he's got to follow through on his word. Otherwise, how can he be credible? Like, he's a God of, I've got you as long as you do I say. I've got you. If you've got me, then I've got you. But if you start going out here and trying to make all these other people happy, even other believers, according to their beliefs and how things should go, for you, and they get in your business, we get it in each other's lanes. It gets a little dicey, especially when we try to come alongside each other and we think we're working towards the same goal and we have good hearts. But ultimately, this older prophet was self-motivated, I think, in really trying to test the credibility of God. And of course, God was faithful with what he said. All right, I'm going to end there, and I'm going to enjoy the sunrise and a few moments of walking quietly by myself. It won't be too quiet because the geese are being kind of loud. They're happy about the sunrise today and the blue skies that are coming and temperatures that are going to be climbing towards the mid-60s this week. here in the Bluegrass State. All right, my friends, have a great Monday, the last day of February as I'm recording this, February 28th of 2022. And yeah, it is, it's going to be a really good day. I feel like this was exactly the message that I needed, because it is really easy to get off of your own path especially when you're working in cooperation, or you think you are, with other believers, and making sure, and sometimes you really are, but sometimes they have a different assignment than you, but you need to stay on your path, and really remember that God is faithful, credible, reliable. His reputation is unwavering. So that's what you can trust as your trail guide, your path guide. Stay on your path. Don't veer off, even when it seems like it could be true. All right. There I went again. All right. Bye.